Distinguished guests, welcome to the 2023 State of the State Address to the Business Community, presented by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan. Please welcome the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Detroit Regional Chamber, Sandy Baruah.
Good morning. Awesome to see you. What a great looking crowd. Thank you so much for taking your valuable time to spend it with us, the Detroit Regional Chamber, and of course, our great governor of the state of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer. We are so proud to be the annual host of the State of the State by the governor of Michigan to the Detroit business community, and thank you for being part of this annual tradition. And we're also so very proud to be longtime partners with our dear friends at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan for this event. And I particularly want to thank the chair and CEO of Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan, Mr. Dan Lepp. And Dan, thank you so much for all that Blue Cross does and all that you do, Dan, personally, for our state and our community. We're delighted to be your longtime friends and partners. I also want to thank the sponsors of this event that have made this beautiful lunch possible, this beautiful venue possible, and they are Kroger, Visit Detroit, First Merchants Bank, and Enbridge, and the Wright, which used to be called the Wright Museum and is now known as the Wright. So thank you to all of our friends and partners to make this event possible. You know, I cannot think of anybody who better embodies the spirit and the values of the state of Michigan than Gretchen Whitmer. Hard work, check. Understands every corner of this state and its economy and its values, check. A love of sports, check. Apparently, especially if you're an MSU fan, but I will leave that for others to judge. And I don't know if the governor even knows this. I went to the other green school. I went to the University of Oregon. So I get the green thing. A love of the outdoors and Michigan's incredible natural assets, check. Relentless energy, and my favorite, unfailingly good humor, no matter what's going on. But it's so much more than that. She has led our state during unprecedented challenges. The 100-year COVID-19 pandemic, historic dam break, unprecedented weather-related challenges, supply chain issues ranging from baby formula to computer chips. But through it all, Michigan outperformed the nation. The days of when the United States caught a cold and Michigan got the flu are over. Michigan was rated by Bloomberg, of all people, as the #1 state for economic resiliency through the pandemic. Michigan's GDP growth outpaced the nation's. At the end of 2022, the Detroit region had a lower unemployment rate than the nation as a whole, and the nation is at a historic low itself. We are getting our act together around economic development, an area in which we are so proud to partner with the governor and her team, along with things like the expansion of the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act and the expansion of the Earned Income Tax Credit, the expansion of our educational and skill base, achieving 60% of our adults in the state of Michigan with a 2-year, 4-year, or skilled certificate. We are so proud to be partnered with the Whitmer administration on all of these issues and more. So, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Michigan's Chief Executive Officer, the Honorable Gretchen Whitmer.
Andy, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. I appreciate that so much. That's such a wonderful introduction, Sandy. I can't tell you how much it means to me. I would just submit that perhaps we should add challenges. We should add unidentified flying objects as well over Lake Huron. I'm going to just make a joke. We don't know yet what it was, and as soon as we do, we will share that information. But I'm very glad to be here with all of you, and I'm glad that we are safe and that Lake Huron is as well. And as we have more information, we will certainly share that. It has been a busy day, much less a busy week, and certainly a busy year. And before we know it, we will all be at the Mackinac Policy Conference together. I just made the stress level of your whole team go up, Sandy, with that. Since I took my oath of office, we have been hustling. 2023 is off to a roaring start, and the new legislature, the leadership, I am so grateful to be working with people like Speaker Joe Tate, Senate Majority Leader Winnie Brinks, as well as leaders Hall and Nesbitt. I think that we are going to get a lot accomplished, and some of the legislature is telling me they're overwhelmed and we're moving too fast, and to that I just smile and say, suck it up. We got a lot to do. We learned we had, just last month, a $9.2 billion surplus. We also in the same month won $918 million investment from General Motors in 4 different Michigan plants. Last month I signed a $1 billion supplemental to build housing, to remove blight, to fund community revitalization projects, and expand apprenticeships. It's the earliest a governor has signed a bill with a new legislature since 1947. So now you know why some of those legislators are feeling hustled. I signed an executive directive to boost diversity in state contracting and an executive order to help us move faster to build more affordable housing, because we know that is a need whether you are in Detroit or you're in the Upper Peninsula. And the legislature is moving forward on 2 tax changes, rolling back the retirement tax and quintupling the working families tax credit. This used to be known as the Earned Income Tax Credit, and is a tax credit for people who are working full-time but aren't making enough to keep their head above water. And I want to thank you, the Chamber, and some of your members for your advocacy and your testimony. I know that we are on the cusp of getting it done. And last month, I delivered my State of the State address, where I shared several goals, including many that I know we share, like powering economic development, expanding talent efforts, and delivering pre-K universally, and so much more. So to build on all of this good work and to keep our momentum going, I introduced my budget proposal last week. It will lower costs, grow our economy, and help us build a brighter future for everyone who is calling Michigan home and who we want to move here and to call Michigan home. So there's plenty of specifics I could get into. It's over $80 billion, so I'm not going to go through line by line, but I do want to highlight some aspects of it for you. Because budgets are not just about addressing problems, it's about leading with your values. Whether it's your home budget or your budget at your workplace, it tells you what you need and what is important. So today I want to share a few of the problems and values that informed the work in the budget that I've just introduced. So we know that costs are high and that Michiganders need immediate relief. We know inflation has meant the margin for so many families in Michigan. I'm looking forward to signing legislation that'll boost the working families tax credit from 6% to 30% of the federal credit. Now, a 30% match delivers an average refund of $3,150 to 700,000 families in Michigan. And the best part of when we focus on this policy, half the kids in Michigan live in these households. 1 million Michigan kids. And so that's hundreds of millions back in the pockets of families that are raising half the kids in our state and are working full-time but can't keep their head above water. Second, we know that if your stomach's growling, it's hard to focus on anything. So, in order to address hunger for our children, I'm proposing free breakfast and lunch for all 1.4 million public school students in Michigan. We get this done, we will be just the 4th state in the nation to focus on this. And it'll also mean savings for families who are living paycheck to paycheck and are struggling to pay the bills. We also know that all people need a good path to a good paying job. So I am proposing that we build on the success we've had with the Michigan Reconnect, and the Chamber was an important partner in getting that done. It's our upskilling program for people 25 and older in Michigan. If we lower that age to 21, we can expand access for 350,000 young people and continue funding our Going Pro effort, apprenticeships, retraining, and retooling for small manufacturers. These are investments in our workforce that will pay off for business and individuals alike. We also know that higher education is financially out of reach for many working class families. And so continuing to support the bipartisan Michigan Achievement Scholarship that we started last year. This lowers the cost of college, community college or private university or public university, by thousands of dollars a year. Starting with the class of 2023, that's the kids that are going to graduate in a couple of months, 65% of the students will be able to attend tuition-free in the fall when combining this scholarship with federal aid. And we also know that childcare is essential for working parents. I'm proposing that we build on the record of bipartisan investments that we made in childcare over the last 2 years by helping parents going back to work, so knowing that their kids are safe and in an environment where they are learning, and of course helping that parent as well when it comes to the family budget. We started TRICARE, where the state picks up 1/3 of the cost and an employer picks up 1/3 and the parent picks up 1/3. This budget proposes expanding on that. We also have the ability to expand our work when it comes to electric vehicles. We know that individuals can save money when they too make the transition from internal combustion engine to an electric vehicle. But we also know that the purchase price is too high a barrier for many. And so we are proposing a sales tax cut of up to $2,400 on electric vehicles. This will be offered at the point of sale so that people save money as they're walking out of the dealership and can participate in the transition and own a much cheaper, over the life of it, electric vehicle. And it's good for the Michigan economy, good for our climate, and most importantly, good for the owners of the vehicle. Lowering emissions lowers energy costs and helps us tackle climate change head on. This budget includes tax credits for manufacturers to reduce emissions, resources for families and small businesses to switch to clean energy, and electrifies the state fleet. We got to live our values in government if we expect other people to rise to the moment. And so that is a part of this budget as well. And infrastructure is invaluable for our health, our safety, and our economic growth. The budget has funding for at least 200 more bridges, replacing 40,000 lead service lines, and installing hundreds of electric vehicle chargers all across the state. So we're building on the work that we've done over the last 4 years to fix the damn roads, to bring them into this moment, to be able to test these vehicles of the future on it and ensure that Michigan continues to lead in mobility. So we're going to keep moving dirt and getting it done. And finally, we know that bigotry is bad for business. Expanding Elliott Larson's Civil Rights Act, so you can't be fired or evicted for who you are or who you love. Getting this done will help us build a more skilled, diverse workforce and attract talent. We all know that young talent is mobile, and they can go anywhere to build their lives, as so many occupations are online and can be done virtually. To make sure Michigan is the place that young people come to for opportunity, we got to make sure that every person is respected and protected under the law. So I'm really proud of this budget. It lowers costs, it connects people with opportunity, and best of all, it builds on the economic momentum that we have been able to create over these last few years. In 2022, our bipartisan economic development tools helped us bring home $13.5 billion worth of projects. Thank you. I'm gonna clap too. We're not clapping for me, we're clapping for us, because this has been a Team Michigan approach, whether it is the MEDC, the private sector, the public sector. We have worked together. Our utility partners, our higher education partners, we've all been a part of making sure that Michigan is competing and winning. None of us does this work alone. But in doing this, we have secured 13,000 good-paying jobs, and we have protected a lot of other jobs that could have gone elsewhere. We made critical bipartisan investments in childcare and education and workforce development. We've established the Michigan Achievement Scholarship. We brought our rainy day fund up to an all-time high. We paid down $14 billion of state debt. We got our credit rating upgraded in the midst of all the challenges that we have confronted. We've driven unemployment down, and we've powered small business growth to historic highs. We can do more in 2023, and we must, and we will. We can put money back in people's pockets and help lower their expenses. We can ensure every child has got an opportunity in a great public education setting. We can build more housing and advance projects that are turning old factories into commercial and residential space. We can help tens of thousands more Michiganders get the skills and education they need to land the good-paying jobs that are growing in Michigan. We can lead the future in cars, we can onshore supply chains in chips, and continue to lead the world in clean energy jobs, which we are right now. And we can compete with anyone and win, because that's what Michiganders do. That's the championship swagger I was talking about in my State of the State, and the underdog spirit. We have got a lot of tailwinds, billions in federal resources and the CHIPS and Science Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, and the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. A strong network of private-public relationships led by folks like the Detroit Regional Chamber, and an economic powerhouse in the city of Detroit. There's exciting stuff happening in the city. I know every one of you sees it, and I know we can all feel it. I was in Washington, D.C. the last few days for the National Governors Association meeting, and in talking to so many of the national media, they went on and on about how what they saw when we hosted the presidential debate at the Fox Theater. It just blew their minds about what is happening in the city of Detroit. First new auto plant in 30 years. That is what partnership from the city level to the state level to the private sector yields. A new gigafactory and homegrown Our Next Energy in Van Buren Township here in Wayne County, creating 2,000 jobs and building long-range batteries. Dakota Kettering plant expansion, creating manufacturing jobs and commitments to local hires. Big Three expansions across several facilities. More on that later. Local projects like the Q Line, I-375, Huntington Place, the Joe Louis Greenway, Ralph Wilson Park, and Book Tower. Education, arts, culture, the reopening of our HBCU, Pensole, the 2024 NFL Draft, 2027 Final Four, Detroit Grand Prix, affordable housing and community revitalization in Brush Park and Corktown, Mexican Town, Cass Corridor, Woodbridge. Innovative private-public partnerships like Michigan Central and the Smart Parking Lab, an autonomous corridor, wireless charging roads, and the #1 startup ecosystem. We've gone from a front page story in Time a decade ago, talking about the struggles, to leading and becoming the world's greatest places last year. We're building something special here in Michigan that people want to be a part of. And this doesn't happen with one person or one entity. It happens when we work together. So I'm proud as I am speaking to people, whether it is in DC or Dayton or Davos, to talk about what's happening in Detroit. The light of this, you knew there was another D coming, right? The D. The light of this renaissance is the people who call this great state home. It's why I feel so optimistic even in some of the most challenging moments, because I know who we are, I know what we're capable of, I see it every single day across our state. It's the honor of my lifetime to serve as the governor of this great state, and for the next 3 years and 11 months, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure when I hand over the reins to whomever comes next, that is in an even stronger spot than it is today. You've got my commitment and my partnership every step of the way, and I thank you.